for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved, divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. It's been a long time coming, and I was going through, well, I'm still going through a very deep mystical healing evolutionary journey of my own, and it's just been very intense, so I wasn't called to record or share anything with you. But today I wanted to talk about this journey, that we're all on, and its different facets of life. But I want to mention something that not a whole lot of beings here on this planet talk about as of yet, and it concerns the galactic change and the galactic shift in its own. So I've been talking about this already quite a lot in my Patreon work, where I talk about several topics in the way that Spirit calls me to do so on the journey of what Spirit calls illumined ascension. So as you know, there is a progression of life, and there are several mystical teachings, occult teachings, monadic teachings that talk about the progression of life and the monadic evolution that evolves through different stages of life. And this goes universally as well as microcosmically. So there's a whole bigger macro perspective and a micro progression of life through which Spirit moves into matter and evolves through matter. So it's like the ascension and descension journey, as you well know, they're always present simultaneously. So in this evolutionary stages of life, consciousness moves through mineral, plant, animal, human, angelic, and godly, or divine kingdoms of life. And it's spoken about as if we are all, this, or our own spirit evolves this way. However, it's not as simple as that, because there's also different, it's like different monadic expressions are birthing different aspects of itself. And within one monadic experience, there's simultaneously several stages of experience. So there's a seed potential within every one of us to become this form of expression of Spirit eventually and ultimately, okay? But we're gathering different experiences along the way, and our journey, our ascension journey that I've been talking about for so long as the illumined union pathway, which is a movement of our current human or contemporary human condition into a greater human stage evolution, which eventually will move out of its stage and what we know the human self to be, moving into what we call the light being stage, or an angelic being which evolves from a human being. So just as we have concurrently several stages of the human evolution existing on our planet simultaneously, that the monadic teachings present as several stages of life that we call from almost like ranging from the kindergarten level to the college level, and it moves through several levels of schooling. So it would concern different stages of humanness existing simultaneously on this planet, as we all know and experience. We're not all the same levels of progression in our evolution. But ascension, as you know, corresponds to the stage of evolution when we outgrow the human nature and we're ready for the journey of what's called the spiral of ascension. So it's like eventually we're giving birth to something new, and within this gradual phasing out of what we call the contemporary human stage and human learning, human growth, and phasing out of that, it's not just that it occurs all of a sudden, but it goes through different stages of the progression of life and evolution of life, which have their own pressures. As you know, just like diamond being formed and shaped through several pressures, we're also birthing and through growing pains evolving into these new levels of who we are to be, that we're not yet, but we are to be, and we're sort of becoming. So we're evolving into in terms of creation or experience. So through these several pressures that we will often in our human level of life experience as pressures of life and stresses of life. And through these conditions, we know we will grow, and we won't just grow like learning experiences, but our physicality in itself is changing. The way we are existing in matter, our relationship to matter in itself is changing, because we're not just shifting dimensionally, but we're shifting our own density. We're shifting, it's like every cell in our body starts to correspond to life differently, because it forms a different relationship to life. So we can call that the progression of the human stage of evolution to the angelic state of evolution, right? Which is light beings. And when you're in the light being, you're sort of not just existing dimensionally, but you become an interdimensional traveler. And many times we call these beings also ETs, or developed benevolent extraterrestrial beings, right? I'm not talking here about the forms of life that are also terrestrial, they're just not of Earth. We could say these are extraterrestrial beings, but they're not in light bodies yet. They're not light beings. They haven't developed at that stage yet. So they also have their own, it's like growing pains, evolutionary stages. They're not human as we know human to be here on Earth. So they're kind of like alien to us, although this word, as you know, is very much based on separation and duality. They're just not originating from the same evolutionary template as humans are experiencing on Earth. It's not the collective oversoul that we call the human oversoul. As you know, at this point in time, because of this shift that is galactic, because there's so much more opportunity for this shift and the progression from the experience of how it is to be human and growing through human experiences and human growing pains, to the birthing growing pains, which begin to they are sort of like potentialized. They're enlarged, because this new evolutionary stage develops differently, and it requires more life force. It requires more from us. So it's like a lot of investment of life force goes into development of this new type of body, this new experience of us in the body. So these growing pains, once we begin our ascension journey, begin to be sort of like very difficult. And because this potential is now enlarged for this to occur at the planetary level, because of the galactic shift as well, the opportunity is greater. There's also many beings who have already achieved their own light being stage in development. We can call them angelic beings or illumined beings. They also exist at different levels and stages, just like we have different levels of humanness, and a human having a potential ranging from more like basic experiences of life and learning about very basic experiences of how it is to be human in matter and form, and growing to a very much illumined human being. It's the same with illumined light beings. They exist in various stages of their own concurrent growth. So a part of their learning and growing, because everything in existence of life and creation is always in its growing spiral, right? And it's evolutionary and evolutionary journey exist as one. It's one and the same, it's two facets of the same facet, of life. So these beings, they also come here at this time, and that's why there's so many of us here at this point, and I call them volunteer souls, volunteer beings. They're helping, they're assisting this process, and the humans that are ready to kind of jump on the spiral of ascension. And this is not an easy task. And imagine how much birthing pains there are. And for the light beings to come into be once again in the human form, which is something they've already grown out of in their own evolutionary stage, in their own past, unfolding, for them it's very difficult. So I'm going through so many birthing pains as of the late, and it's kind of like way showing. So in the old Christian religion, which still, it's not old, it still exists, but the belief is that when we had such a being coming in that we knew as Jeshua the Christ, or Jeshua Sananda, they became the living embodiment of Christ, that he went through his own suffering. But the belief of the Christians is that he died for other people's sins, that he suffered for others, he suffered for people. But in truth, as you know, this is not possible, because no one in the evolution of life can ever do anything for the unfolding of another being. There's only way showing. There is what we call midwifing. There's a clearing of the pathway, but no one in this plane, the universal plane, the galactic plane, can ever do anything on the behalf of another being. It's not possible. It's not how we grow. But there is suffering that is naturally caused when a light being who is out of this stage of evolution comes back. It's almost like they have to retrograde. It's their future self, but it exists in the past from the perspective of their own evolution. So it's very difficult. It has numerous pitfalls as well as it has benefits. It's not always an easy journey, and I'm experiencing myself, because what I was told from my own spirit light team is that each time when there's a progression made by light beings who retrograde, they come back into form in order to assist and help. And there's several of us here now, there's many of us here now in comparison to how our past was and the conditions that already were, in comparison to conditions that are now existing on our planet, and the potential and probabilities and possibilities of our now, our framework here. So a natural evolution of these beings, while they exist in matter, will sort of like even precede the ascending experiences of the souls who are moving into ascension like the first time in their own behalf. It's for the light being, that's not their first ascension, but when they retrograde, when we move back into this experience of this density, we will have to do it again. And it's a part of our learning. It's a part of our light being learning in a planetary basis. That's why our lives are not the same as lives of most humans who are still learning the human condition and through relationships, and to be compassionate, and all these basic things that you have to master in order to fully penetrate the soul essence through a human form. Because the evolution of what we call the illumined human being, which is just one last being on the verge before you become truly a light being. And this is what the final ascension occurs. So there's several levels of ascension. And when a human being fully becomes illumined, they're ready to, it's like kickstart, jump into the next octave of their own evolutionary journey, which we know as the light being. It's like they would exist as an angelic being. And they would get different upgrades, different assignments. This is where missions are being handed over. So if we consider the nature of the different purpose of growth, like what the purpose of the mineral kingdom is, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, and now the human kingdom, and then the angelic kingdoms, they're very much different. And for human, they have to fully grow into their purpose and eventually being able to fully move the essence of their soul, non-limited or hindered in any way, through what we call the human body. It has to merge with the mind aspect. So just like in the beginning stages, when we're still, as humans, a little animalistic, because we've sort of moved from the stage of being very much an animal, from that stage, if we look at the monadic teachings. So that's where our actions and our behaviors are very much reflecting and resonating with that. And then we sort of move into becoming more an intellectualized being. And then eventually, when you move fully, you're ready to move fully into the soul and penetrate the soul and move the soul through the body, you will also have to outgrow the mind aspect and what we call the intelligence. And this is where the intuitive capacities become more important, until eventually they're, fully grown into as a part of this evolutionary journey of spirit and matter. So when this meeting of spirit and matter at the human level is complete, so every level of progression of life has its own spirit matter merge. When that spirit matter merge is complete, the next stage of life is about to present itself. And this is an aspect of life, when this occurs, is when everything else sort of has to make way for it. So it's like the will aspect is proceeding in this stage of evolution. It precedes, it's a predominant quality when we're sort of like, we're self-willed. Every aspect in its own growth, reaching that highest potential of that current kingdom, it has to use an amount of will. But when you are starting to reach that culmination, right, that apex point of your own evolutionary journey, the will aspect will sort of kind of get loose. It will get looser and looser, and this is where it gets difficult for us, and especially at the human being level, because we're so used to using our will aspect to drive the force of life forward, because we believe we must work hard, we must toil for what we are, where we are, and this is where it gets difficult. So it's a stage of letting go, not just one aspect of life, one cycle of life, but the entirety of what life means for us and how we feel through life, how we are in life, how life moves through us, because we're all in essence the essence of Holy Spirit and its life force, which is, you know, the Creator's language of light. It's life force, it's pure life force, and how it moves through us. So at different stages it will withdraw itself completely, because everything in our life has to be renovated, just like we're renovating our apartments, you know, everything at the lower levels of density. You know, when you look at people who are existing in more material aspects, you know, the emphasis of their lives will all be they'll be focused around things that are very, very dense, very grabbable, very firm. They have to have a structure and density. Otherwise, they feel like, you know, they get in fear because they feel like they're losing grip over their own lives and realities. And so at that level, when we look at that stage of evolution, for us, it feels very dense and heavy. And when you will start evolving vibrationally, which is a very organic process, all of that, it's like constant work. You know, when I look at the life here, it's like I live in this village, which is very dense, you know, and the approximation of life being lived here, and it's like work per work. The work here, it's like physical construction work never ends because it's cyclical. That's like the lower aspects of material plane, that's how they express themselves. And once you are out of that, and you're still in it because you're still existing in this world, your journey is not yet complete, it will feel very heavy. This is where the oppression comes in, and it's very difficult for us to at that level still exist and hold physical form, because we still kind of have a purpose or a mission. For those of us who are light beings here that are showing the way of ascension to others that are doing it for the first time, it's also challenging because we ourselves might be like light years from this developmental stage that it is now, you know, at present, at the majority level, you know, at the collective level. But we're still needing to hold on because we're still here for a reason, although we're kind of developed further in our own progression, because we're learning still in our own way. So we kind of have to find linking aspects that sort of drive us to get that healthy view of life, why we're still here, why our essence of life is necessary here, knowing that there is a higher divine plan, not giving up, quitting, doubting it, although that is a natural part of our own evolution. So usually when it gets the darkest, the thinnest, and that's how it lately felt for me. For over a month I've been in this very dark period. It's like the darkness has grabbed me and it just pulled me in. And we can really say that, wow, that's all there is, and all we can see is that darkness, because we're in a very tight stage, a very intense stage of life that is very mysterious. And I have to show you this card that I keep getting, and I also posted it on Instagram. It's called The Secret. It's from the Hidden Realms Oracle, I believe, the Oracle of the Hidden Worlds. And it's called The Secret. It's about the unknown, the mysteries and wonders. And the moment I touched this card, I got this word from Spirit, this sentence that came, and they said, there is a veil of the dark and there is a veil of the light. Because we all know about the oppressive forces of the dark. They do exist. They are here. They have their journey. The darkness is in its own way evolving. So it has its own language, it has its own way of operating, it is what it is. And it also helps us to grow, because when the oppression comes, we feel the pressure, and under that pressure we develop new gifts. We sort of rise to the occasion in a new way, and we perhaps find the facets of ourselves that we haven't been able to tune into before. It's just a new level. It's like tuning into, and it's like, let me give you one example. You've never thought you could have the courage to persevere through something, and then there it is. You find it through the turmoil and the toiling and all of that. It's not necessarily you needing to go out there and work hard at something, but it's a natural occurrence when this is an inner energetic development that is in itself work. It's just channeling all that energy and all that effort of life force being moved through. So we'll talk about this more on my Patreon page, but here it is the unknown, the mysteries and the wonders of the light, because there are certain aspects that are also not visible to us yet, and they're not necessarily of the dark, like hidden agendas, you know, and the covert plans. but it's also the light. The light also has its way of protecting us when we're not at a certain stage of development yet, and something would preoccupy us or make us worry over something too much because we're just not there yet. We're not yet able to see something or understand what it's about. So this plan, this divine plan, is what it is, and we're all a part of it. The problem is when we're not yet fully merged in the spirit and body at our own developmental stage. We all have our own evolutionary stage. Never forget that. That's why comparison is futile. It never works, and you can never compare yourself to anyone or anything other than you and who you used to be and where you're being moved towards. And this is a part of your inner knowing that no one can take away from you, like, ever. So in that developmental stage, you have to track your own journey. It's like you have to develop your own spiral. You have to be in tune with your own spiral evolution. And when it feels like, in a way, you're transgressing, right? This is the word I got recently. It's a transgression. It's not as dark as it seems to be, because the transgression is a part of progression. And there's also what we call the ingression, which is when it all withdraws and there's just a sense of the inner dwelling, and it's not much outside activity. So that's how Spirit explained this to me. And then there's a progression, and then there's transgression. So we always relate transgression with the darkness and the oppression and the rebellion. And we say, well, the dark forces are rebelling the plan of the God, the source, the divine creator. And this is what's called the transgression. And there's a lot of transgression in our world at this time. You will see it. We all know the essence of the living Christ has, in the world of material expression or the physical expression, has what we call its antichrist counterpart. And it's yet not really a counterpart in a divine sense, but it's the way when there's a splitting occurring through lower levels of density expression, that this is how this will be felt, and this is what the experience will be. We have an experience of the Christ, and we can simultaneously feel how the Antichrist feels. We feel it in our world, what it is about. It's the immense darkness, control, oppression, and the workings for your own self-benefit, your own willed processes against the greater will and the benefit of all, which is benevolent, and it's developing and moving evolution into the life and the life force expression that's liberated and is for all, right? And it serves all. So in my own journey, this dark stage has been like a molding of clay that doesn't yet know what's going to be, where it's going to go. But I wanted to add that with each phase of ascension, there will come a phase of descension, because Spirit has to descend through the body. When this occurs for me, I've explained this before, I have these tremendous, I call them bubbles that move through. It's like bubbles of energy that travel, and they move through and exit out of my body at the base chakra. So they move, and they're being moved to the core, and they're connecting with the planet, because you're building a new template, a new relationship with the planet and the planetary core. And I teach about all of this on my Patreon page called Illumined Ascension, because this is where I do my work from now on. So you can join at any time if you want. We go much deeper there, but I wanted to add that at each cycle that you're actually growing out of a certain stage, you're phasing out, there will be growing pains that will make you feel almost like you don't want to be here. But what this refers to, you can't connect with anything that's of the old template and construct, and it feels very difficult. And I was never of the type that wants to go out of the planet before it's my time. I was always kind of looking at that with the eyes of, I was never the kind of person that mocks anyone and ridicules. I was just, always more of a neutral observer of the occurrences. But I've noticed a lot of these people who are self-called star seeds and all these light workers but they actually want to leave the planet, right? Because it's so heavy and it's not for them. And yes, it's difficult, but you have to know, everyone who is here now, even if you are a star seed, you have your own growth. You're not just here to assist, but your assistance to others, whether it's the planet, whether it's other people you're assisting, whatever your mission is, there's also your own growth here. Just like Jesus, he had his own growth as well. He didn't just come for others. It was also part of his own growth. And no one knows about that but himself, his own oversoul, and why he was sent here. And we might not know the exact nature of why this is so until the last moment when that shift is made. So when you come to this crossing that's called, it's almost like when I'm tuning into it, this stage, this level, it's like, I call it like the last epoch, or the last jump. my spirit team has recently given me these words: we're only a few jumps away from, really achieving that illumined union, and that's through my body. So that last jump would be not something that we perceive, then we lose our form and we no longer exist in human form. But like I said, there's a stage, intermediary stage, that we will exist as an illumined human. And I've been talking about this for years now, and no one knows, because it will be different for every single human. We have our own plan. We serve different parts of the plan, right? But it's all one. But it's almost like it will feel difficult. It's very challenging. They've told me that the last stage of this journey is the most challenging one. And recently, Spirit told me in my own life that I'm going through the most intense initiation that I've never been through. And I've never felt as heavy and difficult in my entire life. And I've been through a lot. Like really a lot. This is what the ascending journey of the light being is all about. But I felt like never it has been as difficult as it is now. And yet I have to endure it. I have to persevere. And I don't always have all the answers. As much as people think that when you're a light being, you will know and have all the answers. No, because of the card that I've shown you just before. It's like the mystery, the mysticism of spirit. And we each will feel it on our own level. But it's like that difficult leap jump will feel, there's levels of density. So if you say, well, the more animalistic human would start existing at levels, let's say there's 3.0 to 4.0 density, and then you outgrow that and you become a more intelligently evolved human, because when you're truly human, not the animalistic type of human, your range would be more from 4.0 towards moving towards 5.0, which is what people call the fifth density. And it has nothing to do with dimensions, okay? This is about density, your own density of expression of life and form, and formulating a relationship, right? With life itself. So this would be almost like feeling you are at the 4.99 level, but not fifth density yet. And this is usually the most challenging phase of our human ascension, where we are and holding that state. We're learning to hold that state and persevere. So I will be talking about this more in my Illumined Ascension work on Patreon. This was just a preview, and I wanted to put a video out at least once a month, because this is becoming very intense. I also want to inform you that personal private sessions with me are open once again. I had a few months, no openings. It was reserved just for the people in my group on Patreon, and I had a lot of other work I had to do and finish the Cosmic course, Cosmic Christ course. But before I go today and leave you with a little holiday cheer, what's to come, I want to read you this beautiful poem I wrote today, which is about this process in a nutshell. So the poem is called To See Again, and it talks about this change in the state that it's so mystical to us. We can't put a grasp on it, but it is there. So I hope it will assist some of you. If you want to be in our group, you can join us on Patreon. There's so many videos now already out there, and each month I talk about things that I'm going through and what Spirit presents to me. So here it is. It is called To See Again. I sit here in silent reverie, praying, waiting for the time to come, when again I shall see your silent grace written upon the smile on my face, the touch of warmth within my heart. On the glory, oh the glory of God, why do we feel to be apart when in truth we were always one and the same? The love story of you and me in everything we do, it all shines through. And in moments like these, when darkness seems to prevail and heavy thoughts remain, like gloominess and despair, hiding the light beneath the veil, there is the veil of the dark and that of the light, which doesn't allow us to see beyond the great mystery. And yet it is not in spite, nor in vain. It guards us safely until we are ready to see again. But this time we see with brand new eyes to see, getting closer to the dark mystery. And once beyond the oppression and transgression, a new witness shall arise. Its garment will be of the most splendid light, almost too bright for us to see, at the rising dawn of the first light. And yet, there it shall be, standing the test of time and the turbulence of experience, waiting for us to be reborn again, as that second coming, foretold and prophesied. The light of new dawn shall sparkle in our eyes. We shall know what it was all for, and how worth it has been, and how worthy of it we are now. As we take the first dive into this essence, first dipping our toes to test its holy substance, it all happens behind the scenes, knowing that we must be willing to see beyond, to see again. And so we shall know when we have arrived, and that this palace called home has awaited us since we started this journey from scratch, made of cosmic dust as particles of love, driven through the essence of Spirit's life force, moving through the cosmic Christ. That's all by Spirit. And I hope you will join me on Patreon one day. It's a whole lot of love there, with packed with knowledge. But please know that this mystery of Spirit is something that knowledge alone cannot cover. The experience has to be the one that takes us through. That it's that which makes us endure. It's the experience itself. And that's where the mystery lies, because we can have all the knowledge in the world, as you know, but it's like we still don't know how the experience will go and how we will move through it. And that's the part that's left reserved for our spirit. Its Spirit knows how. So I'll be talking about this for, further in this month in Patreon. And also don't forget, I have beautiful courses that will take you there, that will assist you, life force mastery courses, as well as the physical ascension training, which is a trinity of life on mastery of physical ascension. It's all on my page. It's under the Ascension tab. And yeah, I'm sending some holiday cheer. I don't have any bells or anything with me today, but please feel my love. I'm sitting across the waves through the ethers. And these are dark times. Don't forget that. Don't be fooled. They are. But they're also times of immense light and opportunity. So it's kind of like a double whammy. And we need to choose. And the choice is being performed through our Holy Spirit within. So yeah, the days, as you see, they're very short now. The sun has set. And so I'm sitting as well. Saying bye for now. Hope to see you again soon. And if not, again, have a beautiful holiday time. A season of love, merriment, and of course it's the season of resurrection of the cosmic Christ. So I have had quite a few ups and downs in my own journey, quite a few withdrawals and setbacks, a lot of disturbances and distractions in my own physical world. So the Cosmic Christ course wasn't yet able to come out for some reason, but I'm still working on it. Everything is out there, like I said, except except the final step. So I'll inform you when this is done. For those of you who maybe are perhaps waiting for the course, it will be my final course, as I've already announced. No more courses after that, because that's about as deep as you can go. It's a higher understanding of, you know, this whole journey that we're on as soul beings and what the Cosmic Christ is about. So it's perfect for this time of the year, right? Let's keep our fingers crossed. So I'll see you on the other side. Enjoy with always so much love, wisdom, and power. Take care. Bye for now.